Welcome to Tzu Chi This Week. I'm Mary Lee. It's good to have you with us. Coming up in this week's top stories, back at home, we listen to Taiwan Tzu Chi volunteers share stories from the front line of Haiyan relief efforts. In Hambantota, Sri Lanka, Tzu Chi volunteers hold a winter aid distribution for low-income residents of Dai Village and its surrounding communities. And in China, solitary seniors and needy residents in different areas receive relief supplies from the foundation to get through the winter days ahead. When Typhoon Haiyan swept through the Philippines, Tacloban City in Leyte Province was hit hard. Tzu Chi volunteers enacted a Cash for Work program encouraging local residents to clean up their home while receiving financial assistance. Due to the success of the program, the devastated areas were restored in just 1 month. Some 250 Tzu Chi volunteers from Taiwan and 70 from overseas participated in the relief efforts. And on December 19th, a meeting was called for volunteers who have returned to share their stories from the front line with others.
The devastation Typhoon Haiyan had on the Philippines was unprecedented, yet Tzu Chi volunteers saw it as part of their mission to help rebuild what no one thought was possible. Due to success of Tzu Chi Foundation's Cash for Work program, in just 1 month's time, the foundation assisted in restoring the town to its original vitality. And in the midst of the chaos, Tzu Chi's instant rice fed many hungry citizens.
We made around 60 tons of Tzu Chi's instant rice. We would tell them in simple English to ask everyone to come eat, then they would nod and spread the news in their native tongue. The prefabricated classrooms originally destined for Zamboanga were first allotted to Tacloban City, and volunteers worked under the scorching sun to complete the task.
The first obstacle to overcome is the weather. The sun is unbearable over there. Often we will suffer from heat stroke, mouth sores, or diarrhea.
Upon returning to Taiwan, volunteers who were on the front line of the relief efforts share their experience and the cards of thanks given by local residents. From beginning to end, Tzu Chi volunteers had one goal in mind: to provide comfort and aid supplies to help disaster survivors get back on their feet.
Back when Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program was still going on in Tacloban, many members from the Chinese community did not understand Tzu Chi's purpose for paying local residents such high wages. Thus, volunteers held a gathering to inform and explain, and at the end, everyone came to agree with the program.
Today, Tzu Chi volunteers are holding a gathering in hopes of sharing the Buddhist NGO's disaster relief efforts with members of the Tacloban Chinese community.
If we did not have these donations to help the Typhoon Haiyan survivors, how would Tacloban be able to recover in just 1 month? When we give these disaster survivors this money, we want them to know that there's always hope.
Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program offers double the minimum wage, causing doubts in the hearts of many local residents.
The minimum wage in the Philippines is 260 pesos per day. At first, we did not understand why Tzu Chi pays 500. After listening to Tzu Chi volunteers' explanations that this money is not paid, but rather help, we understood. What is most important is that with all of you here, you have stimulated the economy, allowing stores to reopen. Such an impact is huge and lasting.
Now the bond between Tzu Chi volunteers and disaster survivors has tightened.
In the past, we only cared about ourselves, but because of Tzu Chi, we now cared about others. I'm truly inspired by Tzu Chi's spirit.
Other than introducing Tzu Chi's ideals to attendees, the volunteers also provided consolation cash to 83 families affected by the typhoon.
Earlier in the week in Tacloban City, Tzu Chi's free clinic team was joined by the president of Tzu Chi University, Wang Benrong, and the superintendent of Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital, Gao Ruihe. The pair said they were happy to join the free clinic despite the heat of the day. From the bustling streets of Tacloban City, one can see that life here is returning to normal. Today, Tzu Chi is holding another free clinic to help needy patients. Despite the injuries on his elbow, this boy's health condition is overall good.
one.
Okay, you are healthy. What a strong boy.
Hi, your grandson.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, six. Oh, seven. Seven. Sorry, because nine.
Nine grandson.
Nine brothers, sister.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's the name?
The clinic extends to the front door and under the tent.
5 millimeter each time, and twice per day.
In temperatures of some 30 degrees Celsius, Jima doctors carefully serve each patient they see.
It's more comfortable to see patients outdoors because there is a cool and refreshing breeze. This is like a field hospital. It's my first time seeing patients by the roadside.
It's comfortable to see patients outdoors because of the gentle breeze. It's been a lovely experience.
Now Dr. Gao has become an on-street superintendent.
Whether inside a hospital or by the roadside, the pair's determination to help the needy remains as strong as ever. It's been nearly 9 years since the 2004 South Asian tsunami devastated the lives of those in Indonesia as well as Sri Lanka. Since then, the Tzu Chi Foundation has been in Sri Lanka on behalf of the residents. This year, Malaysia and Singapore Tzu Chi volunteers held 2 large-scale rice distributions in Sri Lanka. At the distribution in Hambantota, not only did the low-income residents of Da'ai village receive rice, but those in nearby communities were extended a helping hand as well. A street vendor in Sri Lanka looks out, waiting for customers to arrive, yet none come. Sri Lanka's yearly flooding inflates the price of daily necessities. Thus, more and more people are unable to feed and clothe themselves. Singapore and Malaysia Tzu Chi volunteers have come together to hold a rice distribution in Sri Lanka's Hambantota. At the event, the mayor arrives to show his support for the cause. Today, it is not only the low-income residents of Tzu Chi's Da'ai village that are receiving aid, but those living in nearby communities as well. Carrying home their 20 kilograms bags of rice, recipients smiles at the gift they have received. Seeing a senior unable to carry the heavy load, a volunteer quickly rushes over to help. At the distribution event, what one sees and hears the most are smiles and words of gratitude.
Thank you, Daiwa.
So much.
One local volunteer couldn't be prouder to be wearing his uniform of blue and white.
Many poor people got the benefit, and especially the recipients are really happy. We can see from their eyes.
After the South Asian tsunami in 2004, the Tzu Chi Foundation not only brought love and care to residents, but also a spiritual outlook. At the year-end blessing ceremony, some 100 participants gathered to pray. Knowing what it is like to lose everything in a natural disaster, residents donate what they could to support Typhoon Haiyan relief efforts. Children, themselves survivors of a tsunami, draws pictures of families and homes as they slowly move away from the terror of their past and into the arms of a more hopeful future. Now we turn our camera to Vietnam. In the past few years, Tzu Chi volunteers have worked in conjunction with the local Women's Association to relieve the financial burden of care recipients in Ho Chi Minh City's 9th District. Working hand in hand, more and more Women's Association members have joined in to help the less fortunate. From strangers to now friends, Vietnam Tzu Chi volunteers and the local Women's Association regularly visit care recipient in Ho Chi Minh City's District 9. In 2009, when Tzu Chi began its educational support for needy students, they also discovered many families who needed extra assistance. However, initially, recipients were skeptical of Tzu Chi.
I saw in his eyes a sense of helplessness and second doubt. He wasn't sure that we could help him.
In facing difficulties in life, each step forward is a step towards enlightenment.
At night, the high tide flooded the road, so the path was full of mud, which was difficult to walk on. Our sister's shoes would sink into the mud.
In the past 4 years, home visitation volunteers expanded from its original single numbers to now over 50 volunteers. Besides work days and sutra study days, each month volunteers also set one day aside to visit care recipients.
I woke up really early and I was very anxious. I was curious as to what this event is like. Now I know.
When I visited the care recipients, I felt very honored and moved because I saw how difficult life can be for some people. I hope I have an opportunity next time to join in to help more people in need.
In times of difficulty, charitable acts are the key to unlocking people's hearts. To relieve the stress of getting through the cold winter days, in China on December 13th, Tzu Chi volunteers organized 2 winter aid distributions in Lushan, Sichuan province, helping a total of 304 households. The 7.0 magnitude earthquake that struck Lushan County on April 20th this year began Tzu Chi's affinity with local residents here. Touched by the volunteers' unconditional love, this devoted Catholic expresses her heartfelt emotions.
Thank you for caring for us. I'm so happy. I don't know what to say. Thank you for coming from so far away to care for us.
On December 13th, Tzu Chi's winter aid distribution benefited 304 households, whom were mainly solitary residents, seniors, and those who suffer from disabilities. Seeing a blind senior, volunteers assist her from beginning to end, transporting her aid supplies home.
When I got to her house, my initial feeling was that I'm so blessed. It's really seeing the poor to educate the rich. When I return home, I'm going to change my attitude towards my parents. I will be much nicer to them.
Prior to the winter aid distribution, volunteers must categorize the relief items first. Tasks are divided, making sure the correct numbers of items is delivered to the right area.
We will allocate the amount needed for each area, after which we will ask volunteers to transport them to the distribution site.
It is hoped that care recipients can feel the warmth and have a blessed winter, with Tzu Chi's love by their side. Also, Laiyuan Tzu Chi volunteers held a winter aid distribution to deliver aid supplies to 165 households, helping to warm up senior residents' hearts.
Though her hearing is not good, this senior can recognize the caring voice of the Tzu Chi volunteers.
Master Zhen Yan sent us here with some gifts to help you. We brought back the rice, noodles, and cooking oil. Are you happy?
Here in Hebei's Laiyuan, to help senior residents brave the cold winter ahead, Tzu Chi volunteers go door to door to deliver winter aid supplies.
We brought you quilts, clothing, cooking oil, salt, and socks. Are you happy?
This 80-year-old grandma lives alone, and upon seeing the Tzu Chi volunteers, she can't help cry tears of joy.
Grandma, don't cry. Take good care of yourself.
Learning that Tzu Chi volunteers planned a visit to Nanshipen village, Grandpa Zhou and Grandma Zhou warmly welcome the volunteers and invite them to their home.
暖和呗，又清秀又暖和，是吧？
好，你一堆怎么穿过这？ 一辈子都没穿过，
一辈子没穿过这衣服，
一辈子都没穿过。
Knowing that the seniors cherish new items and may prefer to store them away instead of using them, the volunteers urge them to use the aid supplies without worries.
一辈子一定要不盖，衣服要每天记得穿啊，别不舍得穿啊，爷爷啊。
我们说一辈子快乐死也没有盖过这么好的。
Next, Tzu Chi volunteers arrived at Grandpa Duan's home. The grandpa's mentally challenged son was unable to work, yet now shows great improvement.
Before, the son wouldn't do anything, but now he knows how to farm the fields.
今天我们来看你，你高兴吗？
可以哦，
高兴啊啊！你跟爸爸有没有说谢谢？
谢谢爸。
Over the past 4 months, Laiyuan Tzu Chi volunteers have paid the family regular visits, creating a close bond with Grandpa Duan and his family.
你看来源自宫把它放大，好有心哦。好吗？好，漂亮吗？漂，哦。
During this cold winter, Tzu Chi volunteers provide impoverished families with not only warmth, but also hope.
Previous to any relief item is given to recipients, Tzu Chi volunteers will conduct home visitations to survey the needs of the less fortunate. Recently, volunteers visited a few families who were unable to make it to the large-scale distributions.
有没有吃饭？
Have you eaten? Have you had any food? Not understanding a word the volunteers say, these 2 mentally challenged boys in their 20s are still in need of their father's care.
叫爸爸。
好好活下去。
I want to live as long as I can so that I can take care of my children. They will live as long as I'm around. I'm 73 this year.
Xu An's only hope is to live longer so that he can take care of his children, both of whom have never learned to call him dad.
爸爸。元坡。
Yuanpo, this is your dad. Touch him, your dad is right here.
摸摸爸爸，爸爸，爸爸在这儿，爸爸。
Having graduated from university many decades ago, Xuan did not expect life to turn out the way it is today. Nevertheless, the man works hard to make ends meet and says his children are his greatest comfort.
好好的，哎，好好的，别难过了，自己的孩子自己好好的，好吗？好。
At the winter aid distribution in Laiyuan County, Beijing Tzu Chi volunteers also arrived to help their counterparts in handing out aid supplies to care recipients living in remote regions. Yang Jingling became paralyzed after a vehicle accident, and it is his mother's optimistic nature that pulled the family through their difficult times. I work hard to earn money and donate what I can. When my younger son gets back on his feet again and is able to raise his child, I will join the volunteers' rank. Yang Jingling wants to learn handicraft to support his family, and the volunteers also promise to accompany the family for as long as they can.
Tzu Chi Scholarship Program aims to help needy students on their path of learning. Therefore, in China, Dongguan Tzu Chi volunteers visited 4 schools in Heping County, while in Sichuan, an winter aid distribution was held for 47 scholarship recipients at Qianjing Elementary School.
In the midst of winter, the temperature here feels a bit warmer. Tzu Chi volunteers are in Ya'an, Sichuan's Qianjing Elementary School to hold a winter aid distribution for 47 students. Before the items are handed out, volunteers set up a little game to strengthen family bonds. Deeply moved by the activity, a mother and son shed tears as they hold on to each other's hand. A bowl of hot red bean soup with sticky rice balls is the perfect touch.
I'm really grateful you have traveled so far to support us here.
Volunteers bow 90 degrees while handing out each relief item, wishing recipients better days ahead. Students from both Heping and Silian secondary schools are slated to receive financial assistance for the first time. Behind each scholarship is a student's courageous story.
I was in 10th grade when you first visited, and I cried when volunteers hugged me because after my father passed away, no one hugged me anymore. I've received so much love from all of you.
At another scholarship ceremony for Fuhe and the Yangming Secondary Schools, students and volunteers sit inside the courtyard, sharing stories of their school years. One 11th grade student said poverty has been his best teacher, giving him eyes to discover the beauty within and motivating him to better himself. The goal of Tzu Chi scholarships is to help needy students on their path of learning. The effort behind this labor of love seems to be bearing fruit, as past students are now teachers.
Now that I'm an educator, I want to pass on these ideals to my students so that they will choose the right path in life. In Hong Kong, the second Free Space Festival was held on December 14th and 15th in the West Kowloon Cultural District. Also on site promoting their ideals are Tzu Chi volunteers who prepared delicious vegetarian food and successfully caught the attention of many.
At this year's Free Space Festival held in the West Kowloon Cultural District in Hong Kong, of the over 400 arts and cultural stores on site, Tzu Chi Foundation is the only one to offer vegetarian food. Delicious meatless dishes successfully catch the attention of many fairgoers.
In Hong Kong, I would like to have more vegetarian restaurants. It's very not always easy to find vegetarian food.
And a tourist waiting for a transit is amazed by how tasty meatless food can be.
This was an accident, a nice accident, a happy accident.
With the temperature dropping dramatically, a huge crowd is seen lining up for a cup of ginger tea. And the most popular dish of the day is vegetarian truffle pasta.
I saw how easy it is to cook this dish, so I thought since my relatives are visiting today, I will buy the ingredients and go home to try it out.
The cook behind these appetizing foods is Kwang Zhigang. At 24, Kwang is already the head chef of a restaurant and is an expert in cooking vegetarian food.
Vegetarian food can be very delicious, healthy and filling. Through this event, we are able to introduce the meatless diet to the public and hope it will become more popular.
The two-day outdoor arts festival offers a variety of performances and food, as well as artworks made up of recyclables and eco-friendly toys for children. Tzu Chi volunteers hope through the event to promote the ideas of reduce, reuse and recycle to the general public.
At the end of the show, we stay in Hong Kong. Tzu Chi volunteers visited the homeless and brought them hot porridge and blankets to get through the cold winter nights. Volunteers also gathered to sing a few songs, making the homeless feel like they are guests at a mini concert. Thank you for watching. See you next week.
Thank you.